All right, Leo.
You got this,
All right.
Come on, yes.
We got it.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Jesus.
Got it, Leo.
All right. Yeah, this is.
You got it, bro. You got it, bro.
All right. My name's Leo Knoll. I'm 27 years old. I'm from Meridian, Mississippi. Woo.
Yeah.
All right. Growing up, my home life wasn't that great. A lot of people they have a good family growing up, and me. Both of my parents were completely addicted to drugs. My grandpa, he had money on convenience stores, and my dad worked construction on the road, which turned into a full-blown meth addiction. And both of my parents were arrested in 2001 for conspiracy to manufacture methamphetamine. They both got 10 years, and my dad, he did 5, and my mom, she came home, and she was fully in her mess. I mean, I can remember being a kid and just finding her passed out on the floor with needles in her arm and stuff. Like, just, So going through all that, her and my dad actually, he was on a little pass from a satellite, and sometimes they allow inmates to come home if they're good trustees or whatever, and they actually got pulled over with a loaded rig of cocaine in the car. My mom went to prison then, so she's doing time, he's doing time, and moving with my grandparents. Life was real good after that for a little while. Everything that was supposed to be established in a family, my grandpa, he was that guy. And 7th grade rolls around, he gets sick, he passes away. We lose everything. I went from living in a really, really nice house on the lake to paying rent with my grandma. And this time my parents both of them are out of jail. Me and my dad don't really have a relationship because he's with, I like to call her my stepmom. They never got married, but they were off doing their thing. And then my mom, she's off doing hers. Well, I start hanging around the wrong people. And I remember the night, man, I went to my mom's house and I was like, there's some guys at school, they're talking about doing Xanax. And, you know, what is that? She was like, well, I get a prescription every month here. And my mom, I don't mean to like bash her or anything like that, but I just feel like it's appropriate. My mom gave me my first Percocet, my first Xanax, showed me how to roll my first joint, hit me with a needle for the first time when I was 17. I'm not saying that, like I said, to bash her, but that's just part of it. So
It is part of it.
my mom I looked for acceptance that I never had whenever I was a kid. I was trying to find that still with her, and it became just more of a dope buddy relationship, if you want to just look at it that way. So let's just fast forward to after the 17. So now I'm like 19, 20 years old, and June 23rd, 2015, I'm sitting in this dope house. Me and my mom were jumping from spot to spot at this time, and my grandma calls me. She's like, if there was a God at this point, I did not believe in God. If anything, I resented God for all the things. I felt like it was all God's fault, everything that I went through growing up. And my grandma called me. She said, I went to church for you tonight. I went to the altar. She said, I just pray that you get your life together. Well, there was somebody in Teen Challenge, somebody from the church, and this girl calls me. And we both went to the same high school, but she wound up dropping out before like 9th, 10th grade. And she said, you know, we're 20 years old. She said, don't you want something better for your life? She said, you know, you ain't got to keep doing the things that you're doing. And I was like, so they offered to take me to Teen Challenge in Mercy House down in Mississippi. And I said, if y'all are going to be there, you know, be there first thing in the morning. And her and her aunt came and got me out of this place, and they took me down there. And after a few weeks, you know, I submitted. I was like, if God's real, you know, reveal yourself to me. And he wrecked my life, man. Like, I went from up there to, they sent me to Hot Springs for 4 months, and then I stayed on, I came to Cape for 10. And God really used me, and I realized that there were certain things that I couldn't go back to. You know, I'm a kid. I'm like, what do I do after this thing? Well, the pastor's wife, Sister Laquita, she's no longer with us, but she was a good, godly woman, man. She was so sweet. And I remember standing in the kitchen that night. She was like, "Brother, what do you think about staying on after this thing?" And I hadn't really given it much thought, but I was like, I will. I can remember just sitting there having that conversation with her. And so I stayed on the staff after that for about 8-9 months. Well, yeah, about 8 months. And about 2 months prior to me leaving, my grandma passed away. I hadn't been at home. I never went on a pass. I never had nobody come visit me the whole time I was in the program. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. So as I went home or whatever, the same girl that took me to Teen Challenge the first time, she showed up to my grandma's wake, and I was like, well, you want to go out and have something to eat? So she was like, yeah. So we went and we had a dinner that night, and it was real nice. It was, I can remember Christmas Eve. We're sitting there, and it's like all the stars in the yard are like over us type things, like something you'd see in a movie, like for real. And a few months later, I was like, dude, they say when you know, like I knew, like that's good. That's my wife. And I wound up leaving, and I got a job. We got married. Life was good for a while. And wound up, I knew I couldn't stay at home. She's from the same area that I'm from. I was like, I knew I couldn't stay there for long. So after about a year, I wound up moving to Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I worked at Volkswagen, building cars on an assembly line. And everything that I never had as a kid, or anything that I felt like I needed to find acceptance in, I found in just working so much, like 60, 80 hours a week. As much as they would let me stay, I'd work from 6 in the morning to 9, 10 o'clock at night. I'd work on Fridays. I'd try to pull a double. I wouldn't leave till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And eventually after that, like my relationship with God, I was on fire. Like, I'll get to that. So me and my wife wind up, we get pregnant. That's awesome. I mean, just things that I see in my life that I'm so grateful for, like that I didn't understand still to this day, like how my parents could have done some of the things that they've done with me, because I just could not, like, it does not comprehend me. Like, I could not sit there and do drugs with my kids. Like, I don't. Okay, so life's great. We're doing all that. And probably 2013-ish, no, not 13-ish, probably 2000, late 2020, okay? So let's say just midway, because my son, he was born, yeah. So my relationship with God gets put completely on the back burner at this time. I'm like, everything that, I want my son to have everything. The only thing I have not accomplished in my life, in my adult life, is purchasing a house. My friends are buying $300,000-$400,000 houses in Chattanooga, and I wanted that. Well, I get a call one day. Well, okay, so that Thanksgiving, my dad, him or my mom, neither one had met my kid yet, and I was like, I talked to him on the phone. I said, "Can you not just stay straight for one day just to meet my son?" And he was like, "Yeah, I will." So on Thanksgiving, I was going to go pick him up, and I was going to let him meet him. I called him that day, and he was so messed up, and I was mad. I was mad at my dad big time, so I just completely pushed them away. July of the coming year, I get a phone call that my dad died, and he was, they found him in front of an AT&T building, just homeless, just whatever. So not doing something sometimes has a consequence too. So my dad dies, I go home, my sister is completely on drugs. I have a little sister, she's 5 years younger than I am. I hadn't seen her about 8 or 9 months, and she done lost 150 pounds probably, and she's got two kids. One of them was staying with her baby's father's mother, and they had the little one with them. And I didn't want to call Department of Human Services. I didn't want to do any of that for her, but I said, what me and you went through when we were younger, I said, this is worse. I said, like, I'm talking about, I was sitting in a dope house with them. I had my gun on the table because I don't know what any of these people are going to do, and my wife's out in the car with our kid, and I'm like, something's going to have to give. Like, y'all need to get help, whatever, I'm here for you, but this just cannot go on. They agreed to let us take the kid with them. So now My dad's gone. I have two, she's a month older than my son. I have 2 infant kids. I'm going back to Tennessee, and now my wife gets all that put on her, and I'm still just working all the time. Our marriage is not good at this point. And that November, her grandma dies. She basically raised her, great woman. She was her rock. That was like her mama, because her mom had to work. She grew up in a broken home too. And at this point now, my wife's just like, I'm ready to go home. I'm ready to be around my family. And me, I'm like, you're taking my career away from me if we do this. I'm resentful. Things are just, I wound up just walking out of my job in that February just to go back, and I was not happy. Like, things were not good. So we go back to Mississippi, and I'm like, all right, we're going to try to make this work. I get on at another job, not making nowhere near the money that I was making. And one night she comes in, and I start making these little compromises here and there. This whole time I had stayed sober. Even whenever
Yeah.
So this whole time I'm pressing in. Yeah, my relationship with God gets put on the back burner, but I'm still sober, so it's okay. It's okay. Everybody else, I'm working hard. I found fulfillment in the world, but that was still not, if I never would have relapsed, that does not mean that I still would have went to heaven. Oh, man. So we go home. She finds me plastered one night. I done wound up drinking and falling asleep, and she goes through my phone. I had never cheated on my wife or anything like this, but there was a girl that I used to work with, and she would text me from time to time. She was married too. And my wife looked through the messages, and even the fact that I was talking to another woman, she was livid. So she winds up going to her mom's house. Well, this turns into, okay, we're going to move in with mom for a while. And I'm like, all right, I'm moving in too. Well, 3 days after my 7 years being clean, I say clean as of from drugs and alcohol. I was bound and addicted to Oxycontin and Xanax. My teeth were all rotted out before I came to Teen Challenge the first time. I mean, just all that. And I started going back around my mom at this point in that circle, and that lifestyle just started to seem like it was appealing again. I took my sobriety for granted. I didn't think that it was that big of a deal anymore because it had been so long, and everything going on with my wife. So it was 3 days after my birthday. 3 days after my 7-year clean mark. My birthday was that week, and Father's Day was on a Sunday. And I can remember I went over to my sister's house, and man, we were sitting in this room, and they bust out this tray, and they was like, oh my gosh. They was like, oh, and I know that was the enemy working through them, because they was like, we didn't mean to do this in front of you type thing. And I was like, well, it'll be all right, so nobody you know, but don't say anything. And that weekend I stayed all up in my mess. My wife didn't call me on my birthday or Father's Day. I was sitting at the casino on Father's Day, just sitting there like just mad at the world, not even wondering what was going on with me. It wasn't I was praying to God, God help me. It was what am I doing to try to fix my problems? And that turned into a heap of mess this time. So this is all this past year. This started this last year. From June to, all right, I'm just going to have to be real with y'all.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, sir. Come on.
August rolls around. By this time, my boss even notices at my job, like I'm falling asleep on the couches. I was doing sales at this time. Like I'm interacting with the public, and I think nobody can see what's going on. I start doing it all again as of shooting up again probably around October. I quit my job. I'm like, I'm just going to start doing the things that I'm doing. And it got to a point where, all right, I missed that. August of that month, I leave. I go off with another woman. I'm staying away from my wife at this time. I never got around my kids or anything like that, doing drugs, but I'd stay away from my wife at the same time too. Things are not good. There was another girl she was using that was just in this group of people. I found myself committing adultery with her. I told my wife, I was like, all right, if I'm coming back home, there needs to be some things that I want to be honest. So she was like, all right. She was like, I knew that there was some trust going to be broken there, but what can we do to push through this? And it wasn't a month later. This is after I quit my job and everything. I stay gone. I don't see my son. And I'm talking about. A lot of people can say that they were great parents. Like, I knew what not to be growing up. I knew what I needed to do as a father. And I did all those things. And whenever I stayed gone those 19 days, during that time I met another woman. And I cheated on my wife again. And I remember going home and I seen my son for the first time. And I had track marks all on my arms. I had a shirt on they didn't know. But when I hugged my son, it broke me because he looked, and he's not even 3 years old. His birthday is next week. He'll be 3. He's 2 years old. And as I'm sitting there, I'm crying as I'm holding him. And he looks over at my wife and he said, Mama, Daddy's hungry. He could feel that I had done lost weight and that something was wrong. And that literally broke me on the inside. Well, all right, so now I'm going to get into this other part of it, and then I'm over with. So I had 4 firearms at the time. I'm not a convicted felon or anything like that, too. I get around this group of people. This one night, one of my firearms comes up missing. I'm just thinking it's stolen. They take me on a ride. They was really going to try to steal my truck. I can remember sitting in the back seat. Somehow I'd been up for a few days, and I remember the guy up front that was trying to scare me out of running out of my car. He turns around, starts tasing me and everything. And by the grace of God, I didn't wind up dead this night. They take me to a house. I remember them saying, let's just go ahead and get rid of this dude. And that's the only time I've really ever been scared like that in my life. My hands were trembling as I go in this house. God's had his hand on me throughout my whole entire mess. And I never seen it like that. But they wound up leaving. I'm talking about I'm going to sleep behind the wheel, coming to, and mailboxes getting smashed in my truck. And somehow I wind up at home. I'm not hurt. My vehicle's not even damaged. That happened with all 4 of my firearms. I'd fall asleep. I would either wind up, I'd been robbed. I'd wake up and I would be in the middle of a car accident. Like, thank God nobody else involved. I'm talking about like me hitting the cupboards in my truck and just all this kind of stuff. And God used that. After the 4th time of that happening, it was after Thanksgiving of this past year, I told my wife, I said, I got to get myself together because I'm having random blackouts. I don't know if it's from the fentanyl. I don't know if it's something's wrong now, or I believe, honestly, to this day, I don't think it was the drugs. I believe that was God, because I was getting ready to do some dumb stuff with the things that I had anyways. If I go to jail for a while, at least my family will be set. That was my mentality at this point. And my wife, she goes to a women's conference. Back where we lived in Chattanooga, she goes up there, and she felt like the Word gave her a word. So during the month, I told her that I first cheated on her. I think he told her that she needed grace or something like that. So she gave it to her. Everybody's telling her to leave me. She said that she wasn't going to quit until God told her to. So the next time I told her about the next one, she said, because her and another staff member here, they were like trying to plot a way to get me back here, and without pushing Teen Challenge on me. And so behind the scenes the whole time, they're like praying like, Lord, just let something happen to him where he can wake up. And me, she's like, I was just praying that I could try to get you caught up in a misdemeanor, but you're trying to catch felonies this whole time. So she said, you were just out of control. And well, I was sitting there after Thanksgiving. I told her, I said, I need help or whatever, because every time that we would go through something, I would just run off and go back and do the same thing. It was like I just couldn't quit the little stuff again. So that next month in February, I was like, some other things had happened, and at this point, I'm ready to just complete. I'm going to be real with you. The guy that robbed me the last time, I was ready to commit murder. If I found this dude, I was going to hurt him bad, and that was just it. God intervened at just the right time. On my way up here, I mean, my wife's like, I just got to get in the teen challenge, okay? So I get up here, and my wife still being with me after I told her this stuff, after the hurt I've done caused on her and my family. Like, they didn't deserve any of that, man. And she still just, I mean, don't get me wrong, to this day, like, our marriage is way greater than it was just a few months ago. Amen. But I know that there's going to be some healing that still has to take place. I know that I can't go back home. That's out of the wrap. That's all just over with on that. But, like, Lord, use me, help me to be more like you, God. Help me to not be that person that I was, because I see now the things that I messed up on. I see that, Lord, just because I wasn't using drugs doesn't mean that I'm going to heaven. I see that. Like, I see the little things that I needed to fix this time as I'm here. I don't know what's after the program for me this time. I don't know if I'm going back to work another job. I don't know if I'm staying on his staff again this time. I know the things that I can't do. I know that I'm thankful for God's grace and his mercy that he's still giving me another chance in life, even though I don't deserve it. I'm going to end with this. Look, God loves every one of y'all. He loves every one of us. He will leave the 99 just for you. He did it for me. And I just pray that everybody grows in a deeper relationship with him. Get to know him. He will not leave you or forsake you. I truly believe that if you truly submit and commit your life to God, that he will be with you. Like, I believe that. I've seen it in my life. Yes, sir. But I just know that if there's anything like that that's applied to you guys, like that you're going through, don't think that your marriage is over. I mean, if my wife should be done with me. She should be. There should be no hope left in this. I should be divorced. So be it. God didn't want that. God's got something else in store for us. I mean, I don't know if I'm supposed to help other people that went through this. I don't know. But I just pray that everybody grow in a deeper relationship with him, and I just thank y'all.
Well, I can say this, that testimony that God's hand is on your life, Leo. Yeah. I think every single one of us here can attest to that, for sure. For an absolute fact. Yes. His hand is on your life. You wouldn't be here right now. Right. Powerful testimony. Yeah. These testimonies are not just for you guys, so you guys can hear these. These testimonies are for these guys. So they can speak it, so they can say it, so they can let it out. Yes. It's just as important to them, if not even more important to them, to speak it. God, you're so good. Amen. I don't know what else to say. God, you're so good. I don't know what else to sing, but God, you're so good.
All right. Come on. Come on. Thank you, Jesus.
what Calvary has taught for me, both now and forever. God